I don't think it goes without saying, but representation is important for any source of fiction. People of a particular group want to feel seen and understood, and most of all, not feel like they are alone. And that's why good representation is important. It can help people feel seen, while also educate those who are unfamiliar with a certain group of people. But because it is so important, it's also a tragedy in most cases when a piece of media has bad representation. It creates a harmful caricature that reinforces negative stereotypes. Stereotypes that bleed into real life. Most people won't even be able to tell if those stereotypes or traits are harmful or not because they are just not properly educated on the particular group of people that is being poorly represented. And that's why it is crucial to have good representation. You do not want to create a false narrative because of bad writing. But unfortunately, there are some stories out there that create a bad narrative through poor representation. Case in point, Angel Dust from Hazbin Hotel.
This body was made to be exploited. Kinky. Come on, keep talking dirty.
Now, I don't think I've ever come across a character so poorly represented, but also so greatly praised by the general audience. Hazbin Hotel is already a pretty controversial show for valid and invalid reasons. And no, the show isn't bad because the word fuck is used more times than a drunk in an Irish pub. I feel that a lot of my own personal problems with the show boil down to one of its most popular characters, and I feel that way because it does a good job at representing the exact issues the show has. Angel Dust is one of the only homosexual characters in the entire show. His entire gimmick is that he's a washed-up porn star / prostitute drug addict. Already his character is just reinforcing negative gay stereotypes. It was a pretty big red flag for me starting the show, and one that I couldn't really shake away. The stereotype of gay men being heavy drug users with insanely high sex drives is older than the creator of the show is. This is a stereotype that was being criticized in the 90s. This is a show that came out in 2023. It is wild to me that a character who is written like this is in a show that came out just last year. It wouldn't even bother me that much if Angel Dust being a party and play gay wasn't his entire personality. But just about every scene he is in, with a few exceptions, has to have humor or comments relating to him being a porn star or him liking drugs. And in between all of those scenes, you have him basically sexually harassing every male character and trying to make advances towards them, no matter what their sexuality is.
In your bedroom, maybe? Under the covers? Maybe we can go look together.
Don't.
Come on. I bet I can make those wings smell.
Which is also another negative gay stereotype. Now, since I already know the rebuttal to this, no, the show taking place in hell isn't an excuse for characters like this. More often than not, I see people use the "it takes place in hell" excuse to justify offensive characters or bad writing. But when you have systems like that in place to fall back on when criticism is made, then it's more of a crutch for your writing rather than an actual world-building tool. Angel Dust is just offensive for the sake of being offensive, but truth be told, I don't even think vivziepop realizes that he's offensive. I think she genuinely just doesn't know that he's a negative gay stereotype. And call me a snowflake all you want, but when your general audience of the show is like below the age of 13, then I do think it's important for you to have good representation in order to not send a bad narrative. Kids are really fucking impressionable, and if we learned anything from the internet in the past several years, it's that the content you put out will have an effect on people, negative or positive. The landscape for queer people, both on the internet and outside of it, is already really hard. The last thing that we need right now is for more people to have reasons to hate us. I'm giving vivziepop the benefit of the doubt that she doesn't know that Angel Dust is a negative gay stereotype because I assume, in good faith, that she isn't trying to be like that. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that this is still the character she wrote regardless. But that being said, this isn't the worst problem that I have with Angel Dust.
When I say come, you say...
Yes, Valentino.
When I say you are fucking 20 guys before lunch, you say...
Yes, Valentino.
See, vivziepop decided to make Angel Dust a victim of sexual assault. His recovery is a plotline in the show, and I don't have an issue with this on paper. Not only do I think it's important to represent male victims of abuse, but also queer men who were victims of it. Men, both gay and straight, have been victims of sexual assault, and it's something that hasn't been properly recognized in society, which is why the execution of Angel Dust and his abuse storyline upsets me to an endless degree. Now, before I open this can of worms and talk about my issues with this character, I should rip off the band-aid because I already know people are going to ask me in the comments. Yes, I am a victim of this kind of abuse myself, and I don't owe you or anybody else watching an in-depth explanation of it. It's my story to tell, and I'm not going to tell it here. I'm bringing this up to make it clear that I have valid criticisms of this show and this character as a survivor myself. I also want to make it clear that this is not a review of this show itself, but more so a critique of one of the characters. I haven't finished this show and I don't plan on doing it. I just want to talk about the character that made me stop watching halfway through. With that out of the way, we should start talking about this.
Angel, baby, come home. It's not the same without you here. I miss you. Come back. Angel, you bitch. If you don't come home, you will be fucking greasy truckers for the next year.
Angel Dust works as a porn star for a character named Valentino, who has him under contractual obligation and takes advantage of him. Valentino's entire character is meant to be this pimp, and as a villain, I don't have a lot of issues with him, although I think giving a rapist character musical numbers is a bit tone-deaf in my opinion. I don't have a strong opinion about how Valentino is written one way or the other. I think he's very bland. A lot of my main issues stem from one episode, and that being Masquerade. It's the 4th episode of the show, and it's the one that got me to stop watching entirely. In the episode, Angel Dust has to deal with balancing his life at the hotel and his life at work. Charlie tries to get involved, but when she does, shit hits the fan and it results in Angel Dust getting physically assaulted by Valentino. See, because Angel Dust is under Valentino's contract, he has to obey his command even if he doesn't consent. After being abused, Angel Dust kicks Charlie out in order to avoid being harmed more. The one good thing I have to say about the writing for this episode is that a lot of this abuse is comparable to the real-life abuse that the porn industry conducts on their actors. And to give credit where credit is due, the show does a good job at portraying that, even if it's a little over the top. This scene on its own would be completely fine if it wasn't ruined by the musical number that follows it. The song Poison is just Angel Dust singing about being abused and how he is helpless to it. Is it a sad melodramatic song with slow and meaningful instrumentals? No. It's a techno dance song that removes any sort of seriousness that the song may have. It doesn't help that the music video has scenes of Angel Dust essentially being abused right in between scenes of him dancing like it's a Kesha music video. And look, I get that there are songs out there with serious lyrics and messages that sound upbeat and cheerful. But the biggest thing that sets those songs apart from Poison is that Poison is created for the sole purpose of a cartoon character whose entire gimmick is being slutty and provocative, while other songs are made with the purpose of conveying a serious message. Foster the People didn't write Pumped Up Kicks because they wanted to create a cartoon character about a school shooter. They wrote it because it's an actual song with a message behind it. Any sort of message that's in Poison is completely lost in translation because of this music video. What also doesn't help is knowing that this music video, along with many other scenes, is storyboarded by somebody who has an actual rape fetish. Somebody that vivziepop frequently defends on a regular. I can't watch this music video and assume that it's being made in good faith when part of it is being made by somebody who thinks that the abuse that Angel Dust suffers is hot. So when somebody who isn't a victim of SA themselves and has a fetish for non-con is hired by somebody to storyboard for scenes of the character in the show with a SA storyline, then at that point, I can't assume that Vizzy isn't ignorant to what she's doing. This episode doesn't get any better, by the way. The next scene has Angel Dust having a freak out over Husk calling his flamboyant, horny act fake. So he storms off to a random bar, only to be picked up by Husk after he almost got himself roofied. When Husk confronts the self-destructive behavior, Angel Dust opens up and saying that it was a way for him to forget about everything in the hopes that him getting high and wasted will ruin him enough that Valentino will lose interest.
I can ruin myself enough in the process. If I end up broken, I won't be his favorite toy anymore. And maybe he'll let me go.
Abuse, and especially sexual abuse, leaves people with a lot of trauma, and the ways in which they cope with the trauma can be unhealthy. Angel Dust's way of coping with it is undeniably unhealthy, and it really doesn't help when this unhealthy coping mechanism is so glamorized throughout the entire show that jokes are being made about it constantly. Let me make this very clear. This is not okay. Self-destructing is not how you deal with trauma, it will only make things worse. I'm saying this because it's very obvious the show is afraid to explicitly say it. And I know that hearing me say it does not mean that it's easy to change, because I get that it's hard. But when shows like these that glamorize these unhealthy coping mechanisms start to get popular and more people start seeing it, then people will start to have this idea that this is normal, and it's not. The show is more comfortable showing the act actually happening while adding sparkle on filters in order for people to make scene compilations of Angel Dust's slain. Angel Dust opening up about his abuse and his unhealthy coping mechanism is fine on its own, but when you follow that up with another musical number, then it sort of cheapens those serious moments. Loser Baby isn't as bad as Poison, but it's still really tone deaf. It's another upbeat song, except this time it's about how your abuse isn't unique and you need to stop whining like a bitch and find company in other people who are in the same situation as you. What a great message to send. It doesn't even work in this show's context because it's comparing Angel and Husk's situations like they are at all similar. I'm sorry, but Angel Dust being forced into sexual actions against his will is not the same as Husk betting all on black and losing. I know what you may be thinking, and no, I don't hate musicals. Hazbin Hotel is just a bad musical. End of story. If I need to show how to properly handle serious moments in a story while still being musical, then we need to talk about Rent. Rent is a musical from 1994 that had a 2005 film adaptation with the original cast. The musical is about a group of bohemians who struggle with their life in 1989 America, facing conflicts with their own personal struggles of finances, sexuality, and addiction. One of the topics the musical does a really good job at handling is the AIDS crisis in America. There's a song early on in the film where one of the main characters by the name of Roger sings about his remaining motivations with writing music. One song, Glory, is an emotional plea from the perspective of Roger, who grieves for his girlfriend and himself after they were both diagnosed with AIDS, brought on by their drug abuse. In 1989, having AIDS is basically a death sentence. At this point in the story, Roger's girlfriend killed herself as she couldn't handle living with it, and Roger sings about wanting to leave an impact on the world and to not feel as though he lived for nothing, wanting to go out in a blaze of glory with just one song. It's this motive that pushes him throughout the film to write that one song to leave behind when he inevitably dies from his AIDS. This song is one of the best examples of how to handle serious topics in a musical setting. It's a dramatic and intense song that fits the themes of not just the lyrics, but the film as a whole. Throughout it, Roger pushes away his love interest, not because he doesn't share the same feelings, but because he doesn't want her to fall in love with someone who is living on borrowed time. The musical isn't afraid to tackle heavy subject matter, and the way it goes about it is impactful and respectful at the same time. It's a really good film, and I definitely recommend watching it. It also failed to make a profit in the box office. Hazbin Hotel wants to have serious subject matter, but it also wants every song to be something to dance to. And in most cases, you can't have your cake and eat it too. In no way am I saying that Roger from Rent and Angel Dust have similar struggles, but I bring up Rent as an example on how to handle serious topics while still maintaining a musical formula. Having a character like Angel Dust and giving him an abuse storyline, while not taking it seriously by adding musical numbers like Poison, and then having somebody who finds the abuse from Valentino to be hot storyboard your musical number, what it ends up doing is creating a parody of itself that hammers in this idea that being a survivor of abuse is girly pop or slay. Suffering does not create better people, it just creates suffering. And I know for a fact that it is not vivziepop's intention to create a character like Angel Dust in this manner. But it doesn't change the fact that it still happened, and this is the character that is being praised and looked up to. Abuse is not something to be fetishized, and being a survivor of it is not an aesthetic, nor is it as glamorous as the show tries to make it look in musical numbers. It's something that sticks with you for the rest of your life. It never goes away. Hazbin Hotel is a show that comes so close to expressing that point, but it fumbles it in every single way possible. Everyone has their own way of coping with abuse, but the show acts as though there is nothing wrong with how Angel Dust copes with his abuse. Loser Baby has proven to me that the show does not understand why this is an issue. I am tired of people talking about Angel Dust like this is the best way to write an abuse victim, because it's not. Angel Dust is a poorly written character that reinforces negative gay stereotypes, while at the same time being a harmful representation of what it's like to be a survivor of abuse. If we have gotten to the point where scenes of clear fetishization and romanticism is viewed as powerful representation, then the indie animation scene is in desperate need of a paradigm shift, because this is not how abuse survivors should be written in the future. Hazbin Hotel and Angel Dust should be viewed as an example of what not to do when it comes to that. This was not an easy video to make, but I want to end it off by saying that if you enjoyed Hazbin Hotel and Angel Dust as a character, that's fine. I don't want you to walk away from this thinking that your opinion is less than mine. People have their own reasons for liking media, and the discourse surrounding this show and the harassment that people receive just for liking it is unacceptable. You can have your reasons for disliking a show, but people can also have their reasons for liking it as well. Everything that I have said in this video is in relation to my own personal life, and I criticize the show because I want to see it improve in a second season. I want it to give me a reason to keep watching, not for it to give me a trauma relapse and feel disgusted by it. Writing this video and revisiting this show was difficult for me, but I can still recognize that this show connected with a lot of people and in many cases even helped them. And I'm not going to be denying that just because I have a different experience with it. All I hope to do with this video is give people a broader perspective on why people may not like the show. And I hope I did that. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the long gap between videos, but I have a lot of other different projects that I have been working on. If you want to see what I'm up to, head over to my Twitch. I'm streaming there pretty often, twitch.tv/LimusTheSlime. And if you want to see more of my other work, then you can head over to my highlights channel, where I'm posting my stream highlights there. That's kind of where I'm active right now. I'm going to try to put out more video essays if I ever feel like it on this channel. But I just kind of wanted to make this because it was on my mind, and I wanted to put it down on the paper while it was fresh. Yeah, so go check out all that stuff, and while you're at it, subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. Have a good rest of your day. I am going to go take a bath.